The scene opens with a lady working late in the office. Unfortunately, this particular night has an unpleasant surprise for her. She gets a call from her boyfriend who tells her about a scary ghost story he's come across that she might like and sends her the link. They say their goodbyes, and as she puts down her phone, she receives a text from him with the ghost story link. Luckily, it is audio, so she listens to the story while working. Suddenly, the scary things from the story start happening to her in reality. Out of fear, she scrambles to the exit, but her trembling hands make it difficult to unlock the door. She hears a faint ticking sound and turns to see what it is, only to see a ghost in the shadows. The ghost begins to run towards her, and she finally manages to unlock the door and run into her car, only to find the ghost sitting in the passenger seat. She screams in fear as the ghost turns to face her. Just then, a team of event planners and her boyfriend, who are hiding in a corner, emerge from the shadows. They happen to be the brain behind the ghost story as part of a planned surprise for her. Her fiancé is about to propose to her, and wants to use the ghost story to prank her first. But she runs out of the car into the street and gets hit by a passing tricycle. Their mood quickly changes from excitement to fear and concern. Thankfully, the lady survives the accident but is left with serious fractures and injuries. When she regains consciousness, her boyfriend finally proposes to her while she's still in the hospital bed and she accepts. Meanwhile, the event planners are leaving the hospital after visiting the accident victim. Risa is happy that the engagement video has gone viral, but her friend, Jan, reminds her that the most important thing is that the lady survived the accident. Jan turns to Aofi, who played the ghost, and asks him why he didn't block the road, which could have prevented the accident. Her question annoys Aofi and he reminds her that he was playing the ghost and even got kicked in the face. Just as the conversation is about to escalate into an argument, Risa intervenes, reminding them that the lady almost perished because of their actions and they barely have any profit after paying for her medical bills. But Jan is optimistic they'll find more clients, saying she prayed to her God. Aofi and Risa walk away, despising her superstitious belief while she runs after them. Risa checks the engagement clip she uploaded online and immediately feels nauseous. She runs to the bathroom and her friends follow her and make jokes about what's making her sick. Just then, Jan receives a call from an event planner offering them a job. They leave the bathroom to go meet the lady who explains that she has 4 weddings to plan at the same time and she doesn't want to mess things up, so she's giving them one of the jobs without commission. She further explains it's an Indian wedding and promises to send the details and assistance to them. Aofi interrupts, eager to accept the job offer, but Risa nudges him to let the lady finish without seeming too desperate. As the lady mentions the pay is in millions, Risa hugs her immediately and accepts the job offer, forgetting her advice to Aofi. However, Jan expresses concern about their lack of experience with Indian weddings, but the lady assures them it's very simple and all about MSP, which means Mehndi, Sangeet, and fear. As she gives further details of the wedding, including the couple's picture, Risa notices that the groom, Aaron, is her ex. This surprises her, but she's left with no option than to continue with the job. The next day, the event planners meet again, this time with Bue, who the lady sends to help them. Bue asks about the incident between Risha and the groom, and Risha is at a loss for words. Aofi explains what happened using musical analogy. After the meeting, they depart. Risha lies down to sleep and has a dream where she's about to get married to her ex, but his fiancé walks up to her and slaps her until she passes out. She suddenly wakes up and realizes it's a dream. She takes out the tennis ball Aaron gave her during their relationship and looks at it for a moment before reminding herself that she's organizing the wedding just for the money, not because of any feelings she has for her ex. With this thought, she throws the tennis ball away, but it bounces back and hits her in the face. A month later, the wedding preparations are in full swing. Risha and the team are at the hotel to welcome the couple and oversee the final touches. Aofi notices that Risha is nervous and confronts her, saying she's seen him many times during the wedding prep. Risha snaps back, stating that Zoom and face-to-face interactions are 2 different things. Just then, the couple arrives. Aaron thanks the team for their hard work and compliments them on their attention to detail. He calls out to his fiancée, Monica, who's still in the car. She steps out and walks over to them. Aofi whispers that Monica is much hotter than Risa, but Risa responds that she heard his remark. Aaron introduces Risa to Monica as an old friend, and they greet each other. The women chat briefly, and Risa hands over the hotel room key while Jan goes over the activities for the next day, and they depart. Later that day, Risa and her friends sit under a coconut tree, watching the couple play on the beach. Aofi grumbles about spying on them, but Risa insists she's only keeping an eye on them to make sure they're okay. Meanwhile, Aofi and Jan gush over the couple's affectionate behavior, annoying Risa with jokes and teasing. Suddenly, a coconut falls from the tree and lands on Aofi's head, knocking him to the ground in pain. Soon, Risa retires to her suite and falls asleep after a brief advice to Jan on how to take care of Aofi's pain. She is jolted awake by the ringing of her phone. She picks up the call to hear some bad news. The photographer they hired for the couple's pre-wedding shoot has been in an accident, leaving him with multiple broken bones. Risa is confused and tries to come up with a solution. They begin to think about who can replace the injured photographer, but no one seems to be available. Just as Risa is about to give up, Aofi remembers a photographer who might be available and is close by. He also happens to be Risa's ex. Risa is reluctant to work with her ex again, but her friends convince her that she's the only one who can persuade him to help. They also remind her that they can't afford to lose this job, as it's worth millions. With that, they leave Risa alone. Risa leaves the hotel in search of Tim and finds him performing at a circus. Her presence disrupts his show, and he disappears from the stage. Risa finds the key to his bike and uses it as bait. When she finally finds him, she asks him for help with the wedding photography. But Tim refuses, telling her he's done with her forever. Risa offers to pay him more than he would get anywhere else, but he still won't change his mind. Suddenly, the circus owner comes over and tells Tim not to come back the next day because he made a mess of the show. Enraged, Tim snatches the key from Risa and drives off on his bike, leaving her shouting after him. Back at the hotel, Risa tells her friends about her fruitless efforts to convince Tim. They're worried that they won't find another photographer in time, and that they could lose the job. Just then, they see Tim approaching, and he falls as he tries to run up to them. He quickly gets up and heads over to talk to the ladies. They start the photo session, and Tim is able to take beautiful pictures of the couple while Risa is carried away, but Bue brings her back to reality. Consequently, Jan goes to the airport with some members of the team to welcome the couple's families. Jan introduces herself to Monica's parents and notices two people arguing. They turn out to be Aaron's parents. Monica's parents reveal that Aaron's parents are always fighting, especially about Junior, Aaron's dog. Aaron also mentions Junior during an interview with the photographer, leaving Risa and Aofi curious about who Junior is. As the interview goes on, Aaron and Monica gush over each other affectionately. Risa starts to feel sick, as she's always been allergic to romantic scenes. She runs out of the room, but in her haste, she bumps into a glass door and falls down. Aaron runs to help her and holds her until she recovers. Risa then goes outside, where she finds Tim about to leave. She asks where he's going and Tim explains that his work is done, so he's leaving. Risa pleads for him to stay, explaining that Aaron and Monica love his photos and want him to be in charge of the entire wedding photography. Tim refuses, telling her to find someone else for her ex's photography. Risa is taken aback by his statement and asks how he knows that Aaron is her ex. Tim points at Bue, revealing that she told him. Risa grabs his bag and begs him to stay, offering to pay him a large sum of money if he stays until the wedding is over, but Tim refuses and tells Risa that money isn't enough to get him to stay. He reminds her of the day they broke up, saying that she should have broken up with him instead of running away, and leaving him to pay for the chicken feet soup. Tim rants that Risa is only apologizing because she needs his help and he's not surprised that Aaron left her to marry someone else. Risa gets so angry that she drops Tim's bag and starts to leave, but she stops and kicks Tim into the pool, leaving him struggling to stay afloat. Risa realizes he's going to drown and jumps into the pool to save him. She manages to bring him out of the water, and Aaron runs over, asking if her ex-boyfriend can't swim. Risa is surprised as to how Aaron knows that Tim is her ex too, realizing that Bue must have told Aaron that Tim is her ex-boyfriend. Not wanting to feel embarrassed, Risa blurts out that she and Tim are dating again, and Aaron congratulates her. Tim wakes up, saying he recalls dreaming that he was about to drown and Risa saved him. He also overhears her tell Aaron that they are back together. Risa says he's right and tries to explain her reason for saying so, but they begin to argue. Aofi interrupts them, saying he's been looking for Risa. He tells her about the accident involving the sword fighting group they booked for the welcome show, revealing that one of them is badly injured, while the others have bruises. Risa worries, as the welcome show is an important part of the wedding. Risa suggests using Tim to complete the squad, but Tim refuses. After some pleading, Risa is able to convince him. After a while, the couple's families start to arrive. Risa rushes to the entrance to greet them and usher them in for the welcome show. The show begins, and Tim seems to be doing well, with the audience cheering him on. But suddenly, one of the show's performers hits Tim's sword, causing it to fly out of his hands and straight towards Risa. Tim quickly rushes over and pushes her out of the way, saving her from getting hurt. The audience erupt in cheers and applause, and after the show, they head back to their rooms. Aaron comes over to compliment Risa on her job. He tells Risa that she did a great job organizing the show, and he's glad he chose her company for his wedding. Risa and Aaron continue to reminisce about their past, with Risa bragging about how great her boyfriend Tim is. She then excuses herself and heads out, hyping herself. As she walks away, she bumps into Aaron's parents, and greets them politely and continues to walk. Later, she meets her friends, Jan and Aofi, and tells them about her conversation with Aaron. Jan jokes that maybe Aaron is jealous of Tim, but Risa quickly dismisses the idea. However, Aofi points out that it's not uncommon for grooms to have second thoughts before their wedding, and reminds them of the story about the bride who was left at the altar. Jan and Aofi both urge Risa not to do anything that might make Aaron jealous and risk him ruining his wedding. Risa heads to her room, her head spinning with the events of the evening. Suddenly, there's a knock at her door. She opens it to find Tim, who asks her for payment for his services. Risa is outraged and reminds him that he almost injured her with the sword. Tim counters that he almost drowned because of her, and that he's owed payment for his efforts. Risa insists that she'll only pay him once the job is complete, but Tim threatens to tell Aaron about their fake relationship. On hearing this, Risa quickly makes the payment, but Tim brings up another issue of where to pass the night. They head to the reception, only to find out that there are no available rooms. The duo begins to argue, attracting Monica's parents' attention. Tim accuses Risa of not wanting to share a room with him, leading Monica's parents to question her motive since married couples should stay together. Risa is stunned when they reveal Buey told them she and Tim are married. Monica and Aaron join them, surprised by the situation. Aaron asks if Risa has a husband now, but she's unable to come up with an answer. Tim steps in, claiming they had a small fight but are fine now, and they bid the family goodnight. As they walk away, Tim clarifies they're not married yet, but are inspired by Aaron and Monica's upcoming wedding. Risa pulls him away. Meanwhile, Aaron and Monica are heading to their room and Aaron reveals he's surprised Risa and Tim ended up together. His fiancée says there's nothing to be surprised about. They make some jokes about them and hug in readiness to retire to their various rooms. Monica tells Aaron to dream of her but jokingly says he shouldn't because it's technically his last day to think about any other girl before the ceremony. Her statement shocks Aaron but he keeps calm and she goes inside her room. Later that night, Risa tells Tim that he can leave her room in a little while. She says that she's asked Aofi to share a room with Jan, so he can have the free room. Tim refuses, saying that he prefers to stay in Risa's room. Risa mutters that she's made a mistake, and Tim asks if the mistake was lying about their relationship or agreeing to be Aaron's wedding planner. He adds that he knows she hasn't moved on from Aaron. This frustrates Risa, and she tries to argue. But Tim cuts her off, saying that liars have smelly armpits, and she begins to sniff her armpit. Tim asks if she doesn't feel hurt about planning her ex's wedding, but she says no and reveals she's just doing the job for the money. Aaron doesn't seem to believe her, so she picks a tennis ball and throws it at his head. He picks the ball to retaliate, but their fight soon turns to a playful encounter. Meanwhile, Aaron's father listens to them play as their room is right beside Risa's room. Meanwhile, in Aaron's room, he scrolls through his laptop and happens upon an old video of Risa and him where he gives her a tennis ball. He smiles as he watches it. Coincidentally, Risa admires the same tennis ball in her room. Later in the night, Risa goes to the beach to relax. Suddenly, a stick of fire falls from the sky and lands beside her. Tim rushes to her apologizing and explains that he is learning fire juggling. He joins her to sit and they discuss a few things before leaving the beach. The next morning, Risa wakes up to see Tim right in front of her. This scares her as she thinks he's gone intimate with her. She questions him and they begin to argue. This leads to Risa chasing him out of the room where they meet Aaron and Monica. Risa quickly tries to run into the room but Tim grabs her and they exchange pleasantries, with Risa acting all weird. Tim pecks her and kisses her on the lips, which attracts playful beating from Risa. Aaron calls their attention as they're engrossed in their fight and informs them they'll talk about the Mehndi ceremony over breakfast and leave with his fiancée. The day of the Mehndi ceremony finally arrives. The couple and their relatives are all having fun. Risa makes eye contact with Aaron but quickly looks away. Tim notices her looking at Aaron but doesn't say anything. After the ceremony, he takes special photos of the couple and asks them to check the photos. They check the photos and Monica gushes at the pictures and asks Tim to help them select the best. Afterwards, as Risa is talking to the horse vendor, Aaron's father approaches her with Junior the dog. He sees the horse and shares with Monica that he had ridden a horse for his own wedding. He reminisces about his wedding day and gives Monica some advice about her own upcoming wedding. He then asks Monica to promise him that she will get drunk at the Sangeet party that night. Monica laughs and agrees to his request. Later in the evening, the Sangeet begins and Aaron's father succeeds in getting Risa and her friends drunk. Risa manages to leave when Monica's father comes to call him for a family photo. She meets Tim, who also reveals that he is drunk. The couple begins to dance with the crowd, cheering them on. Risa gets nauseous and runs off to go throw up. Tim follows her, making a joke of her for not being able to handle her heartbreak, but Risa retorts that she had too much drink. He asks that they pick an outfit and go dance with the couple, but Risa refuses. Her refusal makes Tim troll her for being afraid. She can't have more of his annoying words, so she agrees. Soon, they emerge from the room with other dancers, setting the dance floor on fire with their moves. The couple joins in, and they all have a joyful moment at the Sangeet party. Suddenly, Aaron's father falls and passes out, halting the party. Tim rushes to him and performs CPR, reviving him to everyone's relief. After the party, Risa meets Tim in a lounge and updates him on Mr. Karan's condition. As she tries to get his attention, Tim focuses on his camera until she speaks up, expressing gratitude for his help, and also reveals that Aaron and his mother are grateful. Tim talks about Aaron's parents, noting their bickering yet strong bond. Risa muses about soulmates or hellmates, leaving Tim to jokingly ask about their own relationship. Just then, a blackout occurs, and Jan finds Risa to inform her. They head to attend to the guests, with Risa handing out torchlights. As Risa approaches Aaron's room, she hesitates to knock and turns to leave, but he opens the door, thinking it's someone else. He invites her inside, and they share a moment over grapes. Aaron expresses gratitude for Tim's help and curiously asks about Risa's wedding with Tim causing her to choke on a grape. He helps her to spit out the grape and Risa tries to leave his arm, but he won't let her go. Aaron is about to kiss her but stops, apologizing for his actions. Their moment is interrupted by Monica's sudden appearance, tearfully revealing she knows about Risa and Aaron's past. Aaron tries to explain, but Monica runs off, with Aaron and Risa following. As they rush past their families, they try to avoid causing a scene. Tim notices Risa and chases after her, leaving his photography work. Monica successfully runs out of the building and hops into a car and starts the engine, ready to drive off. Aaron, desperate to stop her, throws himself on the hood of the car, pleading with her to stay. Monica won't listen and starts driving off. Risa, who has been watching the drama, jumps onto the car as well, and Tim, realizing what's going on, grabs his bike and follows the car. Monica speeds through the streets, almost crashing into other vehicles several times. Finally, she comes to a screeching halt, causing Aaron to lose his balance and fall off the car. Monica runs over to him. He pretends to pass out, causing Monica to fear. She runs to him, calling out to him. Suddenly, Aaron wakes up and begins to apologize to Monica, trying to win her love back again, but she doesn't want to listen to him and walks out. Just as she's walking away, Risa blocks her way and confesses that when she found out she's going to plan their wedding, she thought she took the job for the money, but deep down she took it because she wants to be near Aaron. She further explains that she and Aaron do not want each other back, revealing that she saw it in his eyes when Aaron stopped himself from kissing her. She adds that Aaron jumping on the car in order to prevent her from leaving proves his love for her, as no man risks his life just to win back any woman. But Monica won't listen to her either. Instead, she walks away only to meet Tim, who reminds her of the day she asked him to choose the best photos of them. He explains that the best photo of her and Aaron comes after their wedding day, when they start spending their lives together through thick and thin. He advises her to think about all the beautiful photos they'll never share if she decides to give up on Aaron. Yet, she runs off and Aaron tries to follow her, but Risa stops him from doing so, advising that they have a few more hours until the occasion, and he should give her time. Meanwhile, Risa returns to the hotel, feeling guilty and concerned about what might happen next. She confides in her friends, sharing her worries that all their hard work will be in vain if Monica doesn't show up. As they talk, she suddenly decides to get rid of the tennis ball that Aaron gave her when they were still dating. She throws it away and it hits Buey on the head, knocking her out cold. Risa and her friends look at each other in fear and quickly turn their backs before anyone notices. The time for the wedding approaches and they anxiously await Monica's response. Aaron worries that Monica might not want to marry him anymore and confides in his father. His father assures him that everything will be fine. Just then, Jan and Aofi run into the venue with big smiles on their faces. They announce that Monica said yes to Aaron and is now waiting for him. Everyone celebrates and the ceremony begins. The marriage rites and rituals are performed with the crowd cheering them. Risa notices Tim's absence and looks around the room in search of him, but he's nowhere to be found. She leaves the wedding venue to go find Tim, and on her way, she receives a voice note from Tim. He appreciates her for giving him the job and confesses he took the job to be close to her again, and not for the money. He also reveals that it's time for him to move on. Risa, unwilling to accept this, chases after Tim on a horse. She meets him and makes a proposal for a chicken feet soup, but Tim is afraid she'll disappoint him like she did before. Risa assures he won't do such a thing, and he eventually agrees to the new adventure.